Hey everybody, Adam Savage here in my cave, and I have a treat for you today because I have some incredible geniuses visiting the shop. You might know them as Cowbutt Crunchies. I know them as Regan and Kelley. Hey guys.
Hi. Flatter us so much.
It is so good to see you guys in the cave. Every time we have done an interview, it has always been at some other city where you always bring amazing things, and I've been so anticipating you coming here. I've got so many things I want to show you.
It is very overwhelming being in here, by the way. I don't know what I expected a very small space with a normal amount of things in it. And that is not what is in here at all.
So it is a very big space with a lot of other things.
Well, and you know, we deal with the similar issues, right? Of like, how do you store old things that you've made, especially delicate things? And we're going to talk today about something that I have very little experience in, and that is wiggage.
Wiggage.
I just came up with that off the top of my head.
I always think wig making, but like I like wiggage. It's like almost like witchcraft. Wiggage. Okay, well we're using that from now on to talk about wiggage today.
And this is not an area I know anything about. I have had wigs built for me for shows. I've worn them for some of my cosplays, like Jack Sparrow.
Right.
But like I look at stuff like what you guys are wearing, and it is absolutely like, to me, it's like watching someone play golf. I don't understand any of the underlying science, so it's a complete magic trick to me.
Well, like kind of what we were talking about is, I feel like wigs for TV and normal wear is wildly different from wigs for cosplay. Like not only just how we make things like this, but just the shapes that we normally want to achieve, and also just what it's made of. So like a lot of times with like a professional wig, it's going to be made out of human hair, and the way you treat it is like human hair. This is plastic. And when I think about how I treat this, it's actually a lot closer to how you would work with thermoplastic and foam than how you would work with actual hair.
Interesting.
Yeah, like that's kind of the core of the technique. Like, so a lot of times people use something like hairspray or glue. This is not your primary tool though. In my opinion, if you want to get a really big over-the-top wig like this, your primary tool is heat, because like plastic, you're going to heat it, you're going to soften the fiber, and you're going to twist it into a new structure, let it cool, and it's permanently like that.
I've had this experience with, the one experience I've had really trying to shape hair is with my Chewbacca head. It was built by Tom Spina from, you know, all the original reference material. And the key thing about Chewie that a lot of people get wrong, his hair on the underlip and chin goes down and hugs the shape of his chin.
Yes.
And if you don't do that, he looks like Chewbacca, Chewie's cousin. And you don't want Chewbacca. And getting the hair to sit there, it's like, it's up. I travel with the styling brush and with hairspray and a blow dryer, because I've learned you've got to spray the hairspray and hold it up and blow dry it.
Yes, because it's the heat. It's the heat that does it, and you have to hold it until it cools.
Let's start with the wigs that you're wearing.
Okay.
How do you create this kind of volume that it stays like that? I mean, I would imagine that a slight amount of bumping would cause it to lose its form.
So, so first of all, just with these wigs, like I love being able to make crazy things like this, because you can also design your own stuff at this point. Like you can just go totally nuts, and like if you can dream it, you can make it, if you can do extreme techniques like this. So actually with both of these, there's like one key thing that you always need. And you know, these wigs are obviously larger than life. It looks like there's more than one head of hair in it. And so you can't just take the hair and try and spike it or something like that. It's going to be too small. You need to add what I like to call some kind of understructure under there to give it the volume. And in this case, this is teased, texturized hair, just like backcomb, like we live in the 80s.
Okay.
And that creates this big fluffy structure, or in this case, the understructure is poster board. You can also use like foam.
Like peek here.
Yeah, you can actually see it.
Yeah.
Yes, you've got the poster board underneath supporting it.
Yeah, so you can use anything. You do not have to use hair. I like to use hair if I want like an organic structure, like something spiky. Water. And also in this case, like it still moves a little bit. You know, we've got a little bit of that movement. In this case, this would never work for teasing. So we have to have some kind of other understructure underneath in order to give it its shape. But you can go really cartoony and like crazy with this. This one is also, because it's so large, this would have taken so much hair, and teasing, this made a lot more sense to use foam. Our styrofoam in that case. Our darling friend here is actually a combination of the two. This, I think, is tin foil and foam clay to make the shape.
Yes.
And then down here, we've got more organic teasing and stuff all over this guy. But
because you're wearing this on your head, weight is a huge factor.
It is, yes. And that's also part of the reason why you want to add the understructure to create the volume rather than just putting more and more and more and more hair, which is really weighty.
I'm curious if there was an early mistake where you made a wig that was way too heavy.
Yes. Yes. So Steven Universe, there's a character named Rose Quartz. She has these huge curls, and I made one for my friend. And I knew about understructure then. I knew I needed to add something, and I tried to add, I think it was like fusible heavy-duty interfacing.
Yeah.
Right.
Too heavy. Don't do that. Do it too heavy. I made a mistake. I should have chosen something a lot more lightweight. That wig, I think, was about 5 pounds, which it doesn't sound like much, but when it's on your head,
and it might even not feel like too much if you just put it on and say,
and
what's
then
the problem with 5 pounds? But after even half an hour, I would imagine
it gets a lot. So she did not wear that very often, but I think that's probably the one time that I went too much.
Tinfoil and foam clay seems like a really ideal solution.
I liked that because I'm not a good carver.
Yeah,
I'm better at sculpting, and so with him, I really wanted this very iconic. He has to look like this. He has to look exactly like this. And I didn't trust myself to carve it, so I thought I'll get the base out of tinfoil, put the foam clay on top, and then actually on top of that, I also like to do felt. So these two techniques, once you have your understructure, the idea is we're going to put something nice and smooth on top to make, we don't want the teased hair showing through, obviously. So we have to put the smooth hair on top of it.
Okay, so you've done a kind of a bunch of hair.
We've got all the gross inside, and we're going to cover up the gross like a cake boss
laminating
hair.
It almost. Okay.
So, in this case, we can just use hairspray.
Okay.
Which is great, easy, super fast. This is very beginner friendly, not very permanent. This has to be restyled after every couple cons.
Okay.
Now the understructure is, we've permanently changed the shape of that plastic hair, so that really does hold up a lot.
But the sort of
this will fall out eventually.
The outer smooth layer tends to rub off, and you kind of have to smooth it back on.
But having that mechanical hold is just key to this kind of styling. But this will fall out. For something like this, or like No Face's head here, the way that I like to do this is I'll take the hair, I'll take clear glue like tacky glue, or there's actually a German product called Patex, if you can get it, and you smoosh it through the whole hair, coat all of the fibers in that clear glue, and then just lay it on the understructure, and this stuff is permanent. This will... that's the beauty of that.
It's almost like plywood.
It really, it doesn't even, it looks like hair, it doesn't feel like hair anymore.
But it's also super light.
Yes.
And you're starting with hair that's not even necessarily attached to the wig.
Exactly.
Right. Oh, you might be styling this off the wig.
Yes, this actually was originally off the wig.
This guy was done totally separate with just extra hair. And then once he was done, then you clear a space in the wig to attach him.
Now, I could see a problem with this, and I want to ask about this from an engineering standpoint.
Yes.
So you do, let's say, this volume here. And I would imagine that if you have a normal stretch cap underneath the wig, that each time you put it on, you could be kind of altering its shape or kind of, it's an engineering problem to solve. And then I look at this guy and I think, you could put that in a wig and it wants to do this. So these are both issues that have to be dealt with, am I right?
Yes. So for the first one, how do you put a lot of people actually do ask how we put these on. Ideally, if you have made the wig in such a way that it is structurally sound, putting it on should be no issue at all. Like if you have put on your wig and you can mess up your style just by putting it on, you probably don't want to walk around a con with it. Like I think having that mechanical hold with the hair on top is really key because it needs to not fall apart the second you put it on.
You also style it on not one of these. These are not the size of a human head.
Right.
You want to get like the actual
something that's
head-sized head, and then because it's pinned on that thing, while you're putting the shape into it, the shape is sort of primed to be on a human head.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm also assuming that, like, for something like this, when it goes on, you need to make sure that it's grabbing something over here, not just hanging
So
here, right?
this is attached to the understructure of the wig. You actually clear.
Oh yes, I could, if I held this and lifted, if it wasn't pinned on, the whole thing would come off.
Okay,
Yes,
right.
yes.
So you are thinking mechanically about the load on the wig and where it's got to be held.
Absolutely. Nothing should be flopping around. Nothing should rely solely on glue. And I usually like to build my wigs very balanced for that reason as well.
Yeah.
So like these, there's no clips holding these onto our heads. They're just balanced on there. This guy's a little different because he's a little special. But normally when we wear any of these, I try and kind of center the design in some way, or if this one's a little off center, but we've got some things to balance it out, because that would be a huge problem, and clips in your head all day, like uncomfortable. So it's just things to consider that when styling, and also if you can design, like why not make your life easier for yourself?
Do you sit there with a mirror, like taking it off the head and putting it on you and putting it back and forth to kind of?
It depends on who I'm styling for. For most people, no. For myself, I have a weird shaped head apparently. And so I have to do that or else it's not going to look right on me.
Fascinating.
One day I want to make a cast filled with foam so I can have a true shape of my head to style on, so I don't have to do that. But
there should be a turnkey system that we can give people, that people have, where they can do photogrammetry of their head and then a 3D print of their head. Because I have castings of my head, and they made my styling for my Jack Sparrow costume really easy. I did a vacuum form over my head because I heard that this is how Johnny Depp did his. His wig pops right on.
Yes. Well, that's actually almost like, and should I just do it? Should I just take it off?
Yeah, do it.
All right, let's just do it. Yeah, it just, here, let me get the right.
Shatter the cosplay illusion.
Yeah. Yeah, it just pops right off and on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
In this.
Whoops. Wow. Yeah, so it's really, it just kind of chills by itself. Like it should be very stable, ideally, is how you want to make your extreme wigs.
It's a good indicator that you've built the right kind of wig.
Yes.
If it's holding itself up.
And that's also kind of the advantage of this sort of foam work, rather than teasing like this, is that it is
very monolithic.
It's very permanent. Like it is cartoony, but it will never fall apart.
Okay, can we talk a little bit about No Face?
We can talk all about No Face.
I mean, okay. Am I correct that the teeth are like a thermoplastic?
Yes, they are. They are thermoplastic. So usually when I make these styles, ideally I want to make it 100% hair if I can, or as much hair as I can. But in this case, the teeth.
The translucency
you
of the
teeth. You just gotta have the creepy teeth. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna break my rule here.
I love that you gave him some gold to give away.
He needs some gold. He needs a little hand with a little bit of gold. I kind of had this idea of him coming, almost emerging out of the hair was kind of my thought for this style.
This is the thing that I love about you two, is like, there's cosplay, there's pop culture cons, and there's mashups. And then this just is in some whole other realm to me that's beyond that, and really moves towards fine art as far as I'm concerned.
I think we both really, truly consider cosplay an art. And all cosplay to me is an art as well. But I really feel like you can do anything with cosplay, so why not make your own creepy no face coming out of a wig?
But I mean, this actually expands my the whole landscape of no face changes when I see this. Like, it is. So what was this built for?
So actually, her costume was also built for the same thing. I had an idea that I hadn't made any crazy wigs in a while, and I said,
got in the mood.
I got a mood, and I said, well, what do I want to design off of? What are my favorite properties that have really interesting motifs and things that I can create a design for? And I said, I want to do a whole Studio Ghibli series. And so we have No Face, we have Ponyo.
Of course, Ponyo.
We've got Mononoke. I love the Howl one I did. And then we've got Nausicaa and Totoro. And so I made these 6 wigs, and I went to her and 4 of our friends, and I said, hey, you guys want to wear these? you guys design your own cosplays to match. And so this is her Ponyo design to match the wig. My friend Alchemical, she made a beautiful no-face dress to match this with gold gloves.
Creepy.
She's so creepy. But yeah, so we have a whole kind of club of original Studio Ghibli designs.
So with a design like this, do you start by sketching?
Yes, I usually I'll usually sketch it out. Almost always, actually, there'll be one element that I have a very difficult time designing if something doesn't like spring into my brain immediately.
I feel the same.
Yep. So there'll be one element, and like with Ponyo, it was. Honestly, the whole wig, to be frank, kind of
but it was
the way
the
that the fish,
of
yes, the
both
gesture
the wave
of that.
and the leaping.
With him, I wanted the open mouth, creepy face. With this particular wig, it was the flower on top,
right.
And then I'll kind of sketch it and design around that one element is usually how it goes. And maybe it'll change a little, but almost always that original one stays put.
So I'm curious, as I'm looking at the lines of this, is how much of the gesture do you solve in a sketch form and how much do you end up solving in situ?
It depends on how complicated the wig is. In this case, the gesture was definitely him kind of coming over the wig like almost like a wave, and then the hand kind of coming down to the other side. All of the other pieces were just, there'll be something. In this case, this gesture was pretty much 100% designed.
Amazing.
And with this one, I knew the flower was there, I knew these were there, and it wasn't until I made all of the pieces separately that I was just like, how do they go on the wig together? So yeah, I like kind of the feel.
Yeah.
Getting that down on paper first and kind of just the overall kind of shape language. And then if there's more pieces like the back, we'll solve the back when we're making it.
But that's exactly, I mean, I think I work in a very similar way, which is I look for the thing that's the handle with which I can shake loose the whole deal, right? And there's like one part that you concentrate on, and it changes sometimes over the course of a creation, right?
It is. It's funny because the way she designs is so different. I have to get it on paper, that shape feel on paper, the whole thing, 100% what I'm doing, and that's how it is. She does not do that at all.
I'll go shopping and I'll be like, I like that. And then it's just like, okay, well, this is this piece of lace that I got that has nothing to do with the rest of the costume. And then just sort of play with things.
She'll design it as she makes it.
I'll literally just design, or I'll have a silette and like a piece of trim, and then it just sort of.
Well, you'll start with
together.
a mood. You'll also start with a mood.
Right.
But yeah,
vibes first.
She'll design it as she makes it, and I'm just not for me. Nope.
I just can't get enough of how beautiful this is, and I love the tongue is hair.
Oh yeah, you got to have as much hair as you can. All hair. It's a wig.
Can we talk about this? This is reminding me a little of Gary Oldman's wig from Dracula. There's a little bit of that with the two big lobes.
This is actually a kind of a vampire-y necromancer character.
Amazing.
So this is a great example of how permanent this is. This costume is from 2015 and is probably the first big wig before I knew what I was doing.
So 7 years since you built this, it's been kept safe and sound in your space. That's not a small thing.
No, and I mean, here's the thing, foam work is quite permanent. Like, this is the nice advantage to this. We can see the hair is not looking good. This is seeing a lot of cons. This part is not great, but the actual extreme part, that looks fine. This is actually probably the first cosplay we made that we said to ourselves, like, wow, we can actually like really push things and make something really cool.
I love the early work. The early work is always inspiring. I'm always surprised by what I thought was the whole world at that point, right? Like, I was so innocent back then.
I also love how, this was kind of the whole world. We didn't have all these like amazing like cosplay materials and tools and stuff. Like, there was we didn't have a 3D printer for like 5 more years. Like, there was no such thing as foam clay. So, you can still make really cool things with like much more basic or older materials. Like,
I am curious if there are young or let's say beginning cosplayers interested in wigs. What are a couple of pieces of advice you would have loved your early wig making self to know?
Okay. So, advice for wig making. Again, number one takeaway, wigs are plastic. Wigs are plastic. Think of them as plastic. You want to use heat to style plastic, not the glue. That's the number one thing, frankly. That's the biggest thing. And then the second thing is that you need to go slow. That's a lesson that I've still not learned in my life.
Yeah, I have trouble with it every day.
With wigs, it's especially important to go slow, because if you try and take a big old chunk of hair and then apply your glue and slap it on, you're going to tangle it, or the glue's not going to get on all the pieces. It's not going to saturate.
So you'll lose things like the nice laminar lines.
Yeah, or it'll get kind of like crunchy, like it just doesn't, it's really hard to manage that many pieces at once. Instead, you need to do a small layer and a small amount of it. Work with that, work with that, work with that, and that is how you get the cleanest kind of finishing. Honestly, I think once you have those two things, you're golden, because then you have discipline. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Does everyone have a different approach? Some people work on gestures, some people work on the silhouette, some people work on how it's going to...
Oh yeah, I think any designer, cosplayer or otherwise, has a wildly different artistic approach to this kind of thing.
There's no right way to do it.
No, there's absolutely no right way, and especially not with designing. There's no right way to do it. I think a lot of folks I know get a lot of mood board inspiration as kind of their go-to, where they'll find things that they want to pull from, rather than it kind of like springing like Athena out of their brain. But yeah, I don't know. I love cosplay design, so anytime I meet anyone who's like, yes, I've designed this, I'm like, come here so we can now be friends. And
because
hang out.
it's both a really social journey, because we can share how we did it and what we do, but it's also deeply personal and lonely.
Yeah.
Because we're the ones solving those problems.
So one of the most important things to remember when working with a cosplay wig is that unlike a human hair wig or a professional costuming wig, this is made of plastic. This is not real human hair, and so the way we work with it is actually, I think of it a lot more like when we're working with something like a thermoplastic or foam than if I'm styling my own hair in the morning. And with plastic, what that means is we can use our primary styling tool, which is not actually something like glue or hairspray, but it's going to be heat. Plastic, when we heat it up, it becomes soft and malleable, and we can mold it into fun new shapes. So, for instance, if I take this and I want to make it into a nice little curl, we'll just clip it right here and then apply some heat. I like using a steamer on things if I need a really extreme shape, because it gets it very, very hot. However, a blow dryer is a lot more accessible and also works perfectly fine for a lot of different types of styles. So we've heated that up. The plastic has become hot and soft. We're gonna let it cool off now. Again, this is a little different from when we're working with our own human hair. We need the plastic to cool, and then when we pull it out, it's formed a totally different shape. And now this is a very permanent physical hold that's going to stay in the wig a lot longer than something with just glue. So yeah, that is just all by itself wants to stay like that. Now for an extreme wig, we don't necessarily just want to put in some kind of curl. For wigs like this guy, the other wig that we were showing earlier, I like to use something that I call teasing up an understructure. And that understructure is going to give us a lot more volume for something like a spike or a curl, or even just a big fluffy wig. If I want to make a spike and I'm not going to volumize it, this hair is really nice and silky and thin, which is great. But if I try and put it out into a spike like this, that's so thin and small, and I don't think that looks good at all. Instead, we want to add a lot more volume and understructure to that hair so that we have a nice, big, fat spike. Now, if anyone has lived to the 80s, you know how to do this, but for those who have not, we're going to back comb the hair a little bit to add that volume. And with the back combing, you can be as messy as you want with this process. We are just introducing a lot of texture into the hair. We're making the hair kind of kinked almost, so that there's a lot more air and it can't compress down as much, rather than that nice, straight, silky texture that the wig just comes in when you buy it from the factory. but we're just going to back comb this whole thing. Focus on the bottom a little bit because this is a little bit structural. Go all the way up to the top. And there we go. When you back comb the hair, again, we have introduced texture, which, you know, creates more volume. This looks a lot bigger than that straight silky hair was because, you know, all the hair wants to stand off from itself. It's actually almost standing up by itself already, and that's because the hair is also tangled and knotted together. However, the point of this is to add volume, and so we're going to lock that into place again by heating it up, softening our plastic, and then we're going to let it cool so that this hair remembers that kinky, volumized texture. So just let it cool for a quick minute. And then I'm actually going to comb this back out. And you might think, well, why are you undoing this work that you just did to the hair? The work that I did was to lock in that very kinky, not straight texture. And, you know, we had back combed it, heated it, and now, even after I comb it through, this hair is a lot less straight and more volumized than what we began with, even though it doesn't have any of those knots in it anymore. You see how much thicker and plump and voluminous this is. This is the understructure that we really want. Usually when I do this process, I like to actually tease it a couple times. Every time you tease, the bigger the hair gets. And then for the final one, we actually want to leave it a little bit teased because the advantage of the back combing is that we can tangle the hair together, lock that shape into place so that it's really permanent. One of the things I find is that if I was to style a wig without doing any kind of manual work to it to lock that shape in, after time, if I just put hairspray in, that's gonna fall out. But this kind of physical locking in, this is going to last, and this is going to be permanent, and this is going to be perfect for wearing to a convention. So in this case, here we go. We've tangled the hair together. This was not to volumize because we already did that before, but now it kind of wants to stand up all by itself. A little bit of heat always helps to make sure that that is quite permanent. You can also kind of add a little bit of curl on the end if you are so inclined. And now, finally, we're going to add a little bit of spray, glue. There's all kinds of great products you can use for this. This is really just to make sure that it's really not going anywhere. This is the final touch. A blow dryer is very useful to have when you're applying hairspray. That will instantly firm it up so that it's not going to fall over or go anywhere. And there we go. This is a great, super quick understructure made out of teased up fluffy hair. I really love this for organic shapes that are supposed to be more natural because they really can kind of still move around like hair. Some people leave it like this. For me personally though, this is not my favorite texture. What I like to do is I like to leave a little bit of straight hair at the beginning and then lay it on top. If you imagine if we were to kind of surround all of that understructure with our nice straight hair, this part is where glue really comes in handy. Just glue that guy down. Try and get all of the hair if you can. And then lock it in place. Ideally, you also want to give yourself a little more time than 5 minutes, but with enough patience, you can have a really fun, nice wig for your next cosplay.
Kelley, Regan, you guys are always so inspiring to me. Thank you so much for talking about this. This is fabulous.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
Thank you for inviting us.
Oh my gosh, yeah, off camera, there's so much more stuff to explore.
So it's all that way. It's so close.
Thank you guys for joining us, and We'll see you next time. I am such a big fan of Regan and Kelley's work. I want to thank them again for bringing their amazing creations and creativity here to the cave for me to see up close. If you would like to see it even closer, we also filmed this in virtual reality as part of our Tested VR series. You can watch it right now either on the Tested VR app or on MetaQuest TV. Links and details are in the description. Thank you guys for watching.